Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring the tier 7 Pan-Asian DD called Gadjah Mada. I absolutely love that name, Gadjah Mada. It sounds so badass. And well, this ship is very badass and it's probably one of my favorite ships on the line, and it might also be one of the bit more overtuned ships of the line. I mean, it's pretty close to being overpowered, I would say. First of all, the gun power. Well, you see how angled I am? I'm still able to shoot all three of my turrets. Look at the bottom left. You see how angled I am? I'm still shooting all three of my turrets. And that's because the back turret is a 360-degree turret, which means you have absolutely insane firing angles. It can almost shoot directly forward. Almost shoot directly forward. That's how amazing the firing angles on that front turret are. Now, I do, however, potato here, and I eat an unfortunate torp that came right at my nose, and I didn't have time to dodge it. So, at this point you're looking at my health pool and you're going, okay, he has 3000 health. Flamu, this commentary has just started. What kind of garbage game are you showing us? You literally started this game by eating a torpedo to the face. You have 3000 health. This game is over. Well, you see, not in the Gadjah Mada, or well, not in Pan-Asian DDs in general. Because of course, one of the strengths that this line has is this ability to pretty much permanently sit in smokes whenever you want to. Having an 80-second cooldown on the smoke while having a 70-second duration on it means that there's 10 seconds of downtime. You slot a flag, a 5% flag, and your downtime is 6 seconds, which is what you're seeing here. However, considering the Blizko is probably pushing me, I decided I don't want to stay here and I want to leave. Worth noting, the second front turret is also a 360-degree turret, but the absolute front turret has terrible firing angles. The number 1 turret has absolutely awful firing angles, so the Gadjah Mada has insane firepower when closing the distance, but when kiting away, you pretty much have to give full broadside to be able to use your front guns. So it's not nearly as good at kiting away as it is at pushing in. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I only have 14.3k health. That is the base health. It's pretty average. It's slightly better than what the Sims and the Mayhem has. I think the Mayhem has like 14.1k. So 14.3 isn't really that bad. The reason I'm not running Survivability Expert here is because I'm testing a build. I mean, I saw the guns, 3x2 guns, that's the same gun setup that you have on the gearing. So naturally I wanted to try a full gunboat build. This means I'm running Demolition Expert, I'm running BFT, I'm running AFT. Later on I did fine tune this build and I gave up AFT and instead took Survivability Expert because ultimately the default range of 11.9 km is more than enough and you didn't really need the additional range from AFT, and it was better served getting Survivability Expert and Priority Target. But that was later fine-tuning. This is part of me still experimenting with this build and basically still learning the ship itself. I mean, you have to try different builds to see if they work or not, and that's what my channel is for. I test different builds so I can recommend the best possible build to you guys. In this case though, the ship itself is pretty fast. 36 knots base, you run speed flag, 37.8, you run speed boost, and you break 40 knots, as you can see me doing here. It's not that bad. I mean, the Russian DDs will be faster than you, but you're 1 knot faster than the Mayhem, and you're 2 knots faster than the Shiratsuyu. So, not really the end of the world. You're pretty average, which is certainly not a bad thing. Your concealment is 6.8 km, which is actually really good. Really good. 6.8 km for tier 7 is very good. The Mayhem, for example, has a 7.7 base. The Sims has a 7.3. I think those are with camo, those values. And this guy has a 6.8 value with camo. If you pop a captain on it, you can drop it down to 6.1, a concealment expert captain. So you are very competitive in concealment. That, of course, combined with this incredible firepower means that you are very, very scary for all of your opponents. Talking about the firepower, let's talk about the guns. You have 3 2-gun turrets, 120mm guns, 1.7k alpha, 8% fire chance. This is pretty significant because the Mayhem, for example, only has a 6% fire chance. Shell velocity 808 meters per second, which is pretty okay. 5-second reload, 11.9 km range, which is once again really good. As you can see, I really didn't ever pretty much end up using AFT in this example game, which is why I eventually spec'd out of AFT. Most of the time you're shooting at ships that are already in your range. Now, if you compare this to the Mayhem, which has really good firepower as well, Mayhem has 1 second faster reload, but in return it has 1 gun less and 2% less fire chance. So, and that 2% less fire chance is pretty big, because the Gadjah Mada can reach an 11% fire chance on these guns, which is what I'm actually running in this commentary, and you can see the fire chance. With this kind of reload, add in BFT, add in my low HP with AR kicking in, and my reload is off the charts, and every shell has an 11% chance of starting a fire. So this is where the ship really becomes monstrous. And at the start of the game, well, I had what, 10k damage when I was down to 3k health, and you can see it start kicking off at this point. The AR and the BFT and the Demolition Expert, all of these values starting to add up. Then you add in the fact that you have access to these excellent smokes, and you realize that I never have to sail in the open and shoot. I can always smoke up. I can smoke up every time I want to pick a fight. And this rain of fire, what is my reload now? 3.7 seconds. 3.7 second reload on 6 guns with 11% fire chance. Yeah, we are going to be starting some barbecues here today, boys, and it's not going to be nice for the enemy. He damage con the first fire this Cleveland, and the next volley lands, and he's got 2 fires he can't repair on him. Yep, that's exactly how power... Oh, 3rd fire on him. The last few remaining shells started a 3rd fire on that Cleveland. So that Cleveland is cooking. If it wasn't for the change to how fires affect cruisers, he would be burning to death pretty much. He would probably have no health left, but thanks to the changes to fires, he will probably survive it without too many issues. And the AA is pretty garbage. I mean, it's average, but considering this Pan-Asian DD line can't slot defensive AA at all, it means that even if it's average, you're not going to be shooting down any planes because you don't have that defensive AA to boost it. I started 2 fires on the Koenig, he damage conned it. Soon after, I start 2 fires again. This rate of fire with this fire chance, you're a monster. You're an absolute gunboating monster. This is why I literally call this the tier 7 gearing. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And going low as I did, at first glance you might see it as a huge downgrade or like a huge problem, but all it gives me is massive amounts of reload, because of course I recommend AR on this captain. I always recommend AR for this reason. Something that usually is a huge downgrade or a huge problem, you can turn it into your advantage by running AR. That Koenig is gonna burn to death. He can't do anything. He's got 3 of my fires on him. He is absolutely barbecuing to death. Let's see if we can close the distance. Once again, I close the distance and I pop my next smoke. This non-stop supply of smokes on demand. You never have to sail in the open. You see, I'm never spotted. I'm always smoked up whenever I'm picking fights. And that's the combination of these Pan-Asian smokes combined with this firepower. And we already got our first fire. At this point though, we can talk about the torpedoes a bit, because these torpedoes are actually extremely powerful, but they have one big downside. The reload is massive. The Torps have a 120-second reload. That means the Torps have a 2-minute reload. Even Mayhem Torps that reload pretty slow have an 89-second reload. These have a 31-second longer reload than that. So you're gonna wait a long time for these Torps to come up again. A full 2-minute cooldown. Well, of course, AR greatly helps us here, but most of the time you're gonna be waiting a long time. However, the cooldown is worth it. Because they are very strong. They only have 8 kilometers of range, but they do 61 knots. You can launch a total of 10 torps, 2x5, and each of them deals 15.9k damage. In comparison, Mayhem torps deal something like 11.7, I think. So these deal 15.9 per torp, and you can launch 10 of them. The massive cooldown is, in my opinion, absolutely mandatory to balance these torps out, because if you had a fast... You gotta consider they are also deep water torps, so they have an 800 meter spotting range. So this combination means that these things are just monstrous, and they need this long cooldown to balance them out. Note that I was a bit suspicious about not having seen a couple of these guys, so I decided to leave my smoke. I get spotted, but once again, this Pan-Asian strength of having torpedoes or smoke on demand means that I can already smoke up again and disappear from vision. And it's so good and it's so useful. Of course, at this range, especially against an Emerald, well, AP becomes a very strong tool. He's giving me a lot of broadside, which is something you don't want to do. I'm moving in the smoke to make the bloom area larger, to give me more cover, more maneuverability, and you can see that I'm actually raining down citadels. My torps are about to come up. I'm checking to see what target I want to launch them at. I did hit the battleship once with a torpedo, so I know that he's flooding. So I'm probably going to throw a torpedo his way later on, unless I can just burn him to death. It depends what they have over there. Let's see if we can first finish off this emerald, and with the volley of citadels I think he's going to die. And he does die. 5 citadels. Cleveland we can probably gun to death. Our torps are ready, so let's torp. I think we should torp the Gneiser now. I'm moving forward though. A downside here that you noticed is of course the torpedo angles. They are extremely bad. This is pretty much across the board on all Pan-Asian DDs. The torpedo angles are dreadful, so you really have to give the flat perfect broadside to be able to use them. Launching one volley, shooting a bit. I'm a bit careful about shooting. Oh, he's gonna turn fully. We saved our second volley for his turn, and now that we know that he's gonna go for a turn, that's where we launched him. Note that I'm not firing my guns now, because I think the smoke spotting range is 2.5. So if I fired now, I'd get spotted. So I wait until he dies, and I make sure I dodge the shells before I start opening up again. I still have a couple seconds on the smoke, so I think I can launch one volley, and now I have to disengage because my smoke is fading. So this is one of those rare cases where I actually managed to work through all of my smokes on this ship, and that does not happen. And this is without Superintendent. Note that this is running gunboat build without Superintendent, and this is not the final build. I'll show you my recommended build for this ship later on, because the final fine-tuned build is, in my opinion, so stupidly strong, because of course you have survivability expert, which gives you so much more health, and you also have priority target, which means you can gunboat in the open much more safer, because, well, no one is going to be... You'll know when someone is aiming at you. But this combination of gun power and smoke power means that the ship is a beast, an absolute beast. I mean, you look at my health. My health pool has been unchanged since the start of this game. The terrible start of this game where I ate a torpedo to the nose, and I was down to 3k health. And I've been down to 3k health the entire game, and during that time I have farmed 168k damage and a Kraken. So, certainly nothing to underestimate in that sense. The gunpowder of the ship, you can take on pretty much anything, but here I think this really shows off how terrible the front firing angle is. You see how bad the firing angle on the front gun is. This is how much broadside you have to give to be able to shoot it. And if the good side is of course that both the third and the second turrets are 360 degrees, which means that even when kiting away you can still bring 66% of your firepower, but the terrible firing angle on the front turret must be mentioned. This game does end though, and well, what a game it was. This first time trying this build, and Kraken 178k damage, only one cap since I only really capped B, and then I spent the rest of the time in smokes just killing everything. 5 torpedoes. You can get more or less. That's, I mean, when these torps are so fast and so stealthy that if you get them on target, you have a very high chance of landing them, and they do hit stupidly hard. The long cooldown is of course a big downside, and AR helps you significantly there. Looking at team score, 2.8k base team score. I was the top tier though, that must always be mentioned. That is a significant advantage, and I'll see if I maybe, well, when I level this line I'm going to be facing a lot of higher tiers. But generally, the ship does pretty well against higher tiers because, well, the higher tier you are, especially if you face higher tier battleships, the Gadjah Mada loves burning them to death. Getting that, just raining fire down on Bismarcks and Iovas and all kinds of stuff. The amount of damage you get, the numbers you get are insane because you're starting so many fires all across these ships. So it doesn't really suffer that much more. I mean, the obvious downsides are the prevalence of radar, but thanks to the fast reloading smoke, radar isn't even as punishing to this one as it's normally for USDDs who are forced to leave their own smoke. And finally, detailed report. Gun damage 88k plus fires another 50k, and then we got torps only about 40k torpedo damage. So this is probably how it's going to be going, especially if you go for the gunboat build that I recommend on this ship, because the gunboat build is very, very strong and it's also extremely fun to play. Anyway, let me show you guys my recommended build for this line. Oh well, not for this line, for the ship. Alright, as promised, we'll start off with the modules. Now the hull does give you both health and maneuverability, which is very nice. But yeah, I think I'd probably still go for the hull first. It's so useful. I mean, both the upgrades are great. I don't think there's really a good or bad option here. It kind of depends on playstyle. But I think maybe hull for the survivability and maneuverability, and then getting the range next is maybe the right choice to take here. Consumable wise, absolutely get the smokes first. You want to be sitting in smokes in with the Gadjah and just firing away at everything that moves. Follow it up with premium damage con, and if you can afford it, premium speed boost. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1. And here there's some option. I mean, you could run the AA mod, but the AA really isn't that special. You could run it. I personally still prefer running the aiming system for the better dispersion. It has a very minimal impact on a DD though, and you're unlikely to notice it. In fact, the one thing that you might notice the most is the 20% torpedo to traverse speed. That might probably be more significant than the actual reduced dispersion. There's really no good or bad option here. Both are pretty in general. Propulsion mod, engine survival. If you can afford it, you could run the speed boost module as well, or if you have an extra. But the Gadjah doesn't really need it, once again, because it has such a ready access to smokes. And acceleration mod, you don't need, well, steering gears is always good, but considering how much time you spend in smokes, being able to accelerate to dodge torps is very valuable. And if you get radar spotted, whatever, being able to accelerate quickly is also very valuable. So I do prefer that one. And captain perks wise, here is of course my updated build. I mentioned in my commentary I was using AFT, but I've spec'd out of it. As you noticed, I didn't really shoot at anything that would require AFT range, so I discarded the perk as I didn't consider it valuable enough on the Gadjah. So this is my final build, which is of course preventive maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, and concealment expert. This is the very basic DD build that I run on almost everything. From here on we expand. We go AR, faster gun and torpedo reload, extremely valuable. Then we spec into fire chance, and we spec into BFT. And then the final point goes into priority target. This is of course if you have 19 point. I went through the perks in the order of priority. So if you're leveling a new captain, you know which perk to go for first for the maximum impact, the maximum effect. Flag wise, detonation flag, excellent. Faster cooldown on smokes, excellent. Speed, very useful. Increased fire chance, extremely useful, because if you slot these flags, you can bump this fire chance up from 10% to 11%, which makes it oh so powerful. The rest of the flags you can just spread out over money and XP. It's not really that picky about which one you choose at that point. Anyway, that was my Gadjah Mada. I can show you guys actually the premium camouflage if you guys want to see it. That's the premium camo for the Gadjah. If the ship stays like this until release, I can see a lot of people going for this premium camo, because this is one goddamn strong DD, I can tell you that much. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy playing this one. I just feel sorry for all the Akatsukis and DDs like that, because they're going to be eaten alive. But then again, that's wargaming. They really don't like IGN DDs these days, it seems. I will talk to you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary.